Science fiction is usually more fiction than not, but as technology advances, some things are looking more realistic, like something called antimatter. So before we get into what antimatter is, we should know what matter is. Matter is defined as that which occupies space and possesses rest mass, especially as distinct from energy. Basically, that means that matter is everything, like it literally makes up everything. So if literally everything is made up of matter, what is antimatter? Antimatter is defined as molecules formed by atoms consisting of antiprotons, antineutrons, and positrons. That wasn't really the most helpful definition, but no matter, antimatter. Antimatter and matter are very similar, but have one very distinct difference. They have the same mass and the same properties, but an opposite electric charge. This means that an electron that normally has a negative charge is instead something called a positron that has a positive charge. Not only are there anti-electrons, but there are other antiparticles as well, such as antiquarks, antitalons, antimuons, and antineutrinos, which can make up antiprotons and antineutrons. Basically, for every particle, there's an equal and opposite antiparticle. Matter and antimatter are both formed at the same time. Photons of energy convert into the mass of an electron and a positron. This process is known as pair production. What we have drawn here is actually something made before by a man named Richard Feynman. Many of the processes of matter and antimatter can be shown on the Feynman diagrams. This next process is literally the bomb. It's when a positron and an electron meet and annihilate each other, releasing a photon of pure energy. It is obviously called annihilation. Matter and antimatter annihilation produces a lot of energy. For this reason, it has been proposed as fuel for spaceships. Sound familiar? That's the kind of fuel that they used in Star Trek. This makes sense, and matter and antimatter annihilation produces a lot of energy. About 10 million times the amount of normal chemical reactions like hydrogen and oxygen. Hundreds or even thousands of times more powerful than nuclear bombs. Angels and demons were right. Antimatter could be very dangerous if it were to get into the wrong hands. Antimatter is still very much a mystery, and we don't know where we could find it. Places like CERN are able to create antimatter by using something called a particle accelerator. Geez, that gives me flashbacks. Unfortunately, they are only able to create a very small amount, and it's difficult to store for long periods of time. But there is more research being done every day, and maybe soon we'll be flying our antimatter-powered ships to Mars.